welcome to Entomology 101 by me, your professor Entomolomov. You can call me Ento though or Entomolo. Moth is way too common. It is now September 7th and we will get into our beautiful lecture. Thank you so much for the follow, Eprag. Welcome to the lecture. It's a second lecture? Yes, but the first lecture was how to do it as a hobby mostly. And this is like properly how to do it and how to study it and what to know about it. As a small forward, this does not count as a university class. This isn't a college class. This is not a school class. This is to educate the general public and teach everyone general information about insects and entomology. I am not a professional teacher. I am a hobby entomologist, and I am also still a student myself. Also, I am not all-knowing. So forgive me if I don't know something, but it's very common that I don't know something. And Google is our best friend at this point. The first question is, what is entomology? It's the study of insects. Sometimes it gets extended to other small critters, sometimes spiders, sometimes myriapods, but we'll get into what is considered an insect or a bug in a bit. And it is not etymology. Etymology is the study of the origin of words and the way which their meanings have changed throughout history. So the etymology of entomology would be it's the study of insects. It hasn't changed a lot, but it has changed a bit of what we consider an insect and what we consider an arthropod. Now let's get into the term bug. The term bug gets thrown around very loosely and it often extends to different arthropods. It gets... Some people consider it shrimps as bugs. You know, that's a great meme though. Scientifically though, the word bug refers to the true bugs, also known as Hemiptera. Now I have a small scale on the side here, which I hope you can see somewhat. And you're either a bug purist, where you only consider insects of the order Hemiptera a bug. You're a bug lenient, which means just generally an insect, which is what I fall into mostly. I do also like being a bug purist sometimes. Bug accepting is any land arthropod, so there will be a centipede, a louse, you know, any arachnid, scorpions, potentially. Bug chaotic would be all arthropods are insects or a bug, which means shrimp is bugs, barnacles bug. There are a lot of arthropods that do not resemble what you would consider an invertebrate, and the bug anarchist is any invertebrate animal. A squid, a coral, a snail, a slug. Not insects, not bugs. But if you're a bug anarchist, you could consider them that. Now, we're getting into the arthropods that are often confused as insects, because generally speaking, people are not very familiar with insects. Biology doesn't teach us that much about it in school, and a lot of people don't have that much interest in it, to be honest. I think it's really fun to learn about them. I think it's super interesting, and there's so much to learn about them. So a lot of people would say spiders are insects, maybe millipedes are insects, maybe centipedes, maybe ticks, and maybe mites. Mostly it extends to arachnids because they're the closest relatives most people know. So land arthropods often get called a bug or an insect. Now, what defines an insect? The definition is very tight on it because you have arthropods above them which share a lot of similarities, but insect, or generally the insecta, which would be the Latin word for it, are small animals with 3-part bodies and an exoskeleton. Their body is set in 3 parts, which would be the head, the thorax, the abdomen. They all have 6 legs and usually 2 pairs of wings. Now, the insect anatomy, as we just established, is the exoskeleton that is made out of chitin, the head for sensory input and food intake, the thorax for locomotion, and the abdomen for digestion, respiration, excretion, and reproduction. Centipedes aren't bugs. Not per definition, there aren't even insects. They would be considered myriapods, same with millipedes. They have way too many legs. Let's get more into the exoskeleton, which is one of the most important parts of an insect because it usually serves as defense and is pretty much the only defense most of them have. Could dragons be bugs? No. They would be, if they were small enough, potentially. They would need an exoskeleton though, so not just scales. They would need to have 6 legs and an open circulatory system. And I don't think a tail would count as an abdomen, so they would also have a proper 3-part body that you can distinguish. Now, biomineralization is when insects produce minerals to harden their exoskeleton, which means to have more hard places in their exoskeleton around joints or something that would be very easy to attack for a predator. They use minerals that they can produce. They mainly produce calcium carbonate, and the rest of it is made out of chitin and protein. That is why insects are so actually very healthy to eat. They have a lot of protein, and that is super important. Thank you so much for the follow, DarkBlock88. Welcome to the stream, welcome to the lecture. It is also very multi-layered. As you can see on the right, you mainly have 4 layers, which get a bit more complicated the more you get into it, but we'll focus on the 4 main layers, which would be the epicuticle, which is just a multi-layered external barrier against dryness mostly. We also have the procuticle, which gives the exoskeleton its strength. You can see that it is the thickest of them all. And 1 and 2 here are both the epicuticle. Next up we have the epidermis, which is very much like mammal skin. And you can kind of imagine it as what's under your skin when you have a scab or something. It is rather thick, but it is not very strong. And then we have the basement membrane, also known as the base membrane, which provides cell and tissue support and acts as a platform for complex signaling. That is kind of where most of the internal stuff happens because it's the most inner layer of it. Now, the head. Everybody has seen an insect head. If not, on the right you can see them in more detail. The most important things on an insect's head would be the mouth parts, where there are several different kinds. Those are important for food intake. It's important to know that not all insects have mouths. For example, the saturnids, also known as the large and giant silk moths, don't have mouths. They don't feed in their adult life stages. But you can now see on this great image on the right, that would be mouth parts made for chewing. You have a lapping mouth part, which is very important for bees. And we also have a proboscis, which we can very often see for nectar intake in butterflies and other moth species, for example. Then the antennas are also very important. Moths, for example, use it to locate females that give off their scent. That said, they use them for touch, smell, for example, to smell females far away, to know the temperature, to know the humidity, and to know the pressure. They can know everything about that by simply having their feelers on top of them. Some of them can even sense themselves in a room, which kind of gives them like a third-person view, if you want to imagine it like that. And we also have the eyes, which are very important, but very different from our human eyes or mammal eyes. They are made of ommatidium, that is a very bad word, and ommatidium is essentially what makes out the compound eyes. That is the small material you can see, and it's very shiny, and it has over 30,000 lenses in the compound eyes. They have way less resolution than us, but it perceives way more movement, and it has UV and green sensitivity. Some insects, like bees or mantises, have ocelli, which detect low light or small changes in light sensitivity. That is basically like having 3 smaller eyes on top of your head that don't function like your proper eyes, but give you basically a sixth sense. They help a lot of prey and predators to just notice change in their surroundings. Now, the thorax. It also consists of three pieces. We have the prothorax, the mesothorax, and the metathorax. You can see them here where they are on the body. The first one, which is attached to the head, would be the prothorax. Then we have the mesothorax in the middle, and the metathorax at the end, which is connected to the abdomen. Each segment has one pair of legs, and the prothorax and the metathorax both carry one pair of wings, here on this image of the cockroach. Now, speaking of wings, there are many different kinds, but let's look into three which are the most distinguishable. We can look at beetle wings, where the forewings are hardened and are considered and called an elytra. You might have known that word from Minecraft, but now you know it comes from the beetle. They're basically sheathing their hind wings underneath their hardened forewings. Fly wings. Flies, generally speaking, only use one pair of wings to fly. That is why they call diptera, which means two wings. And for butterflies and moths, they're covered in tiny scales, which when they're attacked by predators come off very easily. That is why you don't want to touch butterfly or moth wings, because their scales come off and that is less defense against predators. And Lepidoptera means scale-winged, so it all is very well thought out how they are named. We do know of their existence since quite a long time. Now, the abdomen is the largest body region an insect has. It's between 9 and 11 segments, usually it's 11, and it has guts and reproductive organs in there. Usually the most important organs are in the abdomen, and a lot of insects can actually survive without a head, because all of their important organs are in the abdomen. Flies and cockroaches, for example, they can live up to 2 weeks purely from their abdomen. They will die eventually because they cannot eat anymore. You can see these little holes on the side of the abdomen at the exoskeleton. These are the spiracles they use for breathing. Not every insect does this, and the abdomen in general is very highly different in every species. But you can also see the cercis, which is the small little, almost stabby looking thing, which is considered the hind sensor, which means it senses when something is behind them, which is very effective for prey so they can run away. The abdomen does never feature any true legs, but for example in caterpillars can have prolegs. Prolegs are essentially wrong legs, which just help them stabilize them. But even caterpillars only have 6 legs. Now, before this, any questions? Because we're now getting into the whole major insect orders, which is about 30. And then we will look even more into the 7 biggest ones. I will take a drink before that. You have now the chance to ask about the first 13 slides of the lecture. And this will be the main part. But now that we know what makes an insect, and the definition of insects, how insects are essentially built up, we can now get into this. I will warn you, it's a lot of just technical stuff, and generally speaking, entomology is a very practical field, which means working with insects, observing insects. So knowing data and knowing these facts is very great, but going outside, looking at insects, how they're behaving, seeing them in their natural environment is also very important to find out. You can see how much they reproduce, how many eggs they carry, what they eat, and that's very important. But without further ado, let's get into all the insect orders. The first names are always in Latin, and then they're common names, which you might know them under. I might butcher some of the Latin names, I am very sorry about that. We have Archaeognatha, which would be jumping bristletails, Blattodea, which are cockroaches, Coleoptera, which are all of your beetles, Dermaptera are earwigs, Diptera are flies, Ambioptera are web spinners, Ephemeroptera are mayflies, Grilloblattodea are icebugs, Hemiptera are your true bugs, the only insect species technically considered bugs. Hymenoptera, which are wasps, bees, and ants, they're all very closely related. Lepidoptera, which are butterflies and moths. Mantodeo are mantises. Manta phasmotea are the rock crawlers. Mechoptera would be scorpion flies. Megaloptera are dobson flies. Neuroptera are your antlions. Odonata are your dragonflies. Orthoptera your grasshoppers. Phasmatodea your stick bugs. Plecoptera are stoneflies. Psocodea your bark lice. Rhaphidioptera are snakeflies. Siphonoptera are fleas. Now, Strepsiptera doesn't have an actual common name. It is not a very big order, so it's not very well known to the public, and they haven't really come up with a common name. Physanoptera are thrips. Trichoptera are caddisflies. Sauroptera are angel insects, which is a very cool name to have as an insect, I'll be honest. Zygentoma are silverfish. Now, let's get into the biggest ones, which would be around 7. Your biggest order are beetles, or Coleoptera. There are 290,000 species known worldwide, which is a lot, considered to how small other orders are. They have the hardened forewings, meaning what we already heard earlier. They can sheath the other ones and protect them. We can see it very nicely here. That above the abdomen is actually all their wings. And it also forms this nice little triangle between the wings every time, which means we can learn a lot about that. Now, moths. Me! How great's that? I'm one of those. Which is the second largest order of insects, and also butterflies. But you will now see that there are a lot more moths than butterflies. There are 160,000 species of moths, which is all of these numbers are roughly. There are 18,500 species of butterflies, and their name Lepidoptera means scale wings. That is why they have tiny scales on their wings, and that's why they're named that. They undergo a complete metamorphosis. So did the beetles. I forgot about that. Are you gonna start an arachnology course? Maybe. I am still planning on continuing Entomology 101, but when we finish that, I might branch out into non-insect arthropods. Hi Jack, welcome to the lecture. You're late. Let's get to the third largest order, which are your bees, wasps, ants, also known as Hymenoptera. They have 2 pairs of thin membrane wings, and ants only have wings sometimes. Male ants have wings in their adult life stage, so they can fly out of the hive and mate with a different virgin queen. Also, young queens have wings that they shed off once they don't need them anymore because they've settled down in a hive. This is called nuptial flight, and you can actually very often see that in the end of summer, that ants are flying around, a lot of bee queens, a lot of males. They are considered the most highly evolved order of insects, and they're also very versatile. Not sure if you knew this, but most wasps are parasites. They lay their eggs with someone and then just kind of skedaddle. They feed off of different insect species. As you might know, you can observe that in cockroach wasps, where the larvae essentially get put into the cockroach, which is then a zombie from the venom, and lives off of that and punches through their abdomen after eating all the organs. They also undergo a complete metamorphosis. Virgin Queen didn't have to call me out like that, SME. I've had the pleasure of meeting parasitoids in cockroaches. It is very interesting. It's basically like Alien, but smaller. Now, let's get into Diptera, our fourth largest order, which includes flies, mosquitoes, and gnats. They only use one pair of wings to fly, which is incredibly interesting. They essentially have de evolved their second pair because they don't need them. The adult flies all have sucking mouthparts, which is how you can easily identify them, and they undergo a complete metamorphosis again. Oswald's a very old family. So far, the oldest signs of wasps coming into existence 240 million years ago during the Triassic period. Yes, but dragonflies are still older than that. Dragonflies are about 300 million years old. That's older than sharks. And older than dinosaurs. Now we get to the crickets, grasshoppers, and locusts, which is called the Orthoptera. They have thin, leathery forewings, which they use as cover for their hind wings, similar to how beetles do it, but not as strong and not a fully exoskeleton. They are very important foods for birds and also other insect-eating predators. They undergo a gradual metamorphosis, which is not like a complete metamorphosis, but way more like the incomplete metamorphosis. You can see it here. In this little ring, it goes from... So there's an adult, it lays an egg, it hatches, there's your first stage nymph, then there's the second stage nymph, into the third stage nymph, fourth stage, fifth stage. Every time they molt, they get a bit bigger, but essentially the nymphs look a lot like the adults. Does it mean dragonflies are older than Saturn? I don't know about that. I don't know a lot about space. Older than sharks? No, I don't believe so. Then I might have remembered incorrectly. 450 million years ago? Oh, that's my bad. I know that they're older than dinosaurs for sure. I wasn't sure about sharks. Crown dragonflies appear in the late Triassic. Dragonflies are 300 million years old though. We have very old fossils of them. Doesn't occur viniferae are not crown dragonflies. And other stem odonatas. Yeah, but odonatas are dragonflies and damselflies, so... Now, speaking of dragonflies, we have Odonata, which is also a very large order of insects. They have two pairs of long, narrow membrane wings and a very long and narrow abdomen. A very fun part about dragonflies is that they can move each wing separately, which gives them incredible acrobatics. A really good way to know if it's a dragonfly or a damselfly when they're sitting would be that dragonflies hold their wings out flat when they're sitting, while damselflies hold out their wings together above their body. Another easy tell are their eyes. Dragonflies have these almost one big compound eye around their whole head, while damselflies have these two very almost ball-like at the end of their head. The adults of dragonflies are predators, and they also undergo a gradual metamorphosis, which we saw here, which means the young look very similar to the old. And Hemiptera, which is our seventh largest group, have two pairs of wings, where the hind wings are membranous, similar to how dragonfly wings look. You can see it. Nope, you can't see it. Hold on. I'm blocking the cicada. You can see it on the cicada here, how those look. And you can also see that their forewings are hardened, which means they also have this little shield. They also undergo gradual metamorphosis, other than beetles, which undergo a complete metamorphosis. But a lot of people like to put them in the same category, which would be incorrect. There is a very great difference.